Okay, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all who are joining us online as well. We're excited to have you. So I'm going to start by giving you all a little bit of an intro to how our session's going to run, and then we'll have a little bit of a pause for the survey, and then we'll get the session actually underway. So I am Jillian Maxey Brown. I am a professor at Auburn University, and we organized this session together with Nancy Love from University of Michigan and Drew Capone over there from Indiana University. And our goal today, we have a number of different learning outcomes. Let's see. There we go. So we have a couple different learning objectives for our session today. It's going to be a highly interactive session, so I hope you do not enjoy where you are sitting right now, because we are going to have you move in a little while. So we have four main things we're hoping to get out of the session today. We want to talk about different themes that people have, challenges with teaching WaSH, either at universities or organizations, whatever group you teach it, or if you don't teach it currently, we also really want to hear your voice and your experience too. We also are interested in providing an opportunity for each of y'all and for us to be able to meet other people who are in this space and are teaching these topics. We want to work together to see how can we better improve the quality and the delivery of the WaSH content that we're providing to our students, and then help inspire people, whether you currently have a class that you're teaching, help you with improving it, or inspire you to start to teach a class on WaSH topics. So we have three different outcomes that we plan to have from this session. We're not planning on this discussion just being in the next hour and a half. We hope that this will continue on beyond this with creating a network of educators who are working on different WaSH teachings in different settings. Together, we're going to develop an online shared drive where we can share resources with each other, so that say you have a really good guest lecture, a really good case study, somebody else can also benefit from being able to use that in their classes. Or say that you're really looking for a specific type of curriculum, like you really want a case study on a certain topic, maybe somebody else in this room, or as hopefully the network will grow beyond this room, somebody else can help you with accessing that, so you're not having to teach in a silo. We also are interested, if there's enough interest, in developing a mentorship program where someone who is newer to teaching has a senior or a more experienced educator who they can go to ask them, how do I address this challenge? How do we work about this different curriculum need that I have? So we're going to start out with a breakout group based on three themes that we've already decided, and then the second one will be where we start to get more input from you guys. So this survey here is where we can collect information from you guys so you can get connected with the network after this session, and then you can also help us be informed about what some of the other themes or other topics are of interest to you all. So we're going to do about 20 minutes in the first breakout group, then we'll split into a full group discussion where we'll all come back together and talk about what the three different groups discussed. And then we're going to have a second breakout session that's focused more on the next steps and what you would hope to get out of a network. And then we'll have a full group discussion again and a little bit of closing and final remarks. So has everybody gotten the QR code?
I've only got three responses. So just as Julian said, this is how you stay connected to us. So please go ahead and give it a minute maybe and let them get it.
Yeah. So while you guys are doing that, I'll give you a little bit of a sneak preview to what our first set of themes are going to be, so that you know as you're answering your survey kind of what's coming. Our first breakout session is going to have three different themes. So we're going to look at key learning outcomes, how are we designing the courses, and then also what course content we have. So start thinking about which of those themes, I'll give you a little bit more information in a second, you feel like resonates with you as an educator or in the course you're hoping to develop. And then we'll give you guys some time to finish up the survey. how many of you currently teach or have taught a WaSH class? How many of y'all are considering it? And how many are here to learn? Awesome. We have a really good split among all three groups. And then how many of y'all are teaching at like a university or an institute of higher ed? Okay. And then what about the rest of y'all? What kind of organizations are you guys teaching with? Any brave souls? Yeah.
I'm just a student, but I want to be a professor.
Oh, awesome. Is anyone here doing like a community organization where you're teaching community members WaSH? Okay, awesome. Good. We have a really good split. That's what we were hoping. We were hoping for a really good mix of experience levels and a really good mix of audiences that we're trying to deliver to.
What about for higher ed, graduate versus undergraduate versus maybe cross listed? Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm teaching grad. Who's teaching graduate students, such graduate students?
Teaching cross mix.
Cross listed? Cross mix. And undergrads, are you teaching undergraduates?
My one class is cross-listed.
Cross listed grad.
Awesome. Yeah, so our hope is that we can kind of network together and put all of our efforts together to be able to see what are you doing in your class, what curriculum is helping you, so that it can also help some of the other people. Because I know from conversations that Drew, Nancy, and I have had, and I've talked to some of y'all as well, it's very much an individual having to construct your own course curriculum, and that's really difficult, really time consuming. And we're hoping to see if there's ways that we can better support each other in that.
I think we've got 14 now, so we got
Okay. Awesome. Okay, it sounds like you guys are ready for breakout groups 1. So this is going to be about 20-minute discussion. These are the 3 different theme areas we've identified. The first theme is going to be key learning outcomes, and you guys are going to all move over here in this area. And y'all are going to be answering these 3 questions, talking about what skills or knowledge are you hoping that students will gain from the course, what kind of topics are you prioritizing covering, and what do you think about when you're developing your learning outcomes based on the students' backgrounds? Are they different ages? Are they undergrad, grad? Are they people who live in this community, or are they just helping the community? Different things to think about there. And then our second theme is going to be in the back under the clock. That is looking at course design. So when you're designing the course, what are your considerations for prerequisites? Are you thinking about it as a design course for WaSH, or is it more just an exposure to general WaSH topics, depending on what type of students you have? And then also, what kind of strategies do you have for getting students to come to your course? Are you putting out flyers? Are you going on social media? Is it word of mouth? Things like that. And then our third theme is going to be over here on this wall up in the front. And that's going to be looking at how are you structuring your course content. Are you using videos? Are you mainly doing course studies? Is there homework? What types of media are you using? And then where are you going to find that content, and what are some successes or challenges you've had with finding course content? And those of you who are joining us online, we're going to have a separate set of questions for you, which I'll show you in a second, and it will be a question from each of these different themes, so you can participate in all of them. So each of the groups, you guys can pick which theme you would like to go to. We just ask that y'all try to keep it about 6 to 8 people per group. I think with the number of people we have here, we'll be okay, but if we need to create a second group, they told us we could have up to 90 people in our session, so we are prepared for 9 different sessions. If there's a theme that y'all really like and there's a lot of people there, we can break y'all into 2 different groups. And there's just a couple things we want to give y'all some guidance before you go over there. There's going to be, these questions are going to be on a piece of paper that's printed out. It's sitting in the chair. And then we have different colored Post-it notes for you to write your thoughts on. And then as a group, you can discuss after everybody's had a chance to reflect. And then Nancy's put together these large Post-its on the wall so y'all could take your small Post-it comments and put them up and organize them. If there's different things that people said the same item or things that complement each other or contrast, you guys can group them that way.
Do not use the pens on the wall.
Yeah.
Pens are on the pads, and then the pads stick to the wall.
Yeah, we don't want to get kicked out. And then just for the sake of time, try to be respectful of each other's time. And when you share, try to do about 2 to 3 sentences or so to make sure that not one person is dominating the discussion, but everybody gets a chance to share. And then for the second breakout groups, we're going to have blue Post-it notes. So for the first one, write your responses on any color Post-it note besides blue. And then for the second breakout group, we'll only use the blue Post-it notes. That way we can keep our themes separate. Okay, any questions before we begin?
And I would say for those of you who are students or learners, and you're valuable in every one of these spaces, because really getting it from a student's perspective, and you know what works for you as a learner. So take your choice, but really value that.
Yes. Okay, you guys can get up and move to whichever theme you want to go to. And those of y'all who are online, here are your questions. So if y'all want to take a moment to write reflections to the questions in the chat, and then we have a moderator who's already been chatting with you guys. We might be able to do a verbal discussion. I'm not sure about the tech setup, but otherwise we'll definitely be able to have a conversation in the chat as well. Okay, so if you guys want to do course content, this room's over there. If you want to do course design, it's going to be in the
basically a summary of a paper with a broad background beforehand, and then kind of digging into the details of that paper on the top. So they have one on sanitation subsidies, hand pump functionality monitoring, sanitation and nutrition, water tariffs and subsidies, limited water supply. So the graduate students that I had, they had the paper was group of papers. Although stars
I'm going to pull everybody back. You guys almost done with your chats. I'll give you a little bit to wrap up. You are in -5 minutes. Gave you a little extra time. Okay, you guys ready to move on? I'm gonna make you move on. Drew, you're good? You guys are good? Okay, so we are going, I'll click back, it'll let me. Okay, so now you guys can kind of see, sorry, those of you all in the back, it's a little bit small font. I was thinking we could maybe go around, each group could share a little bit about what they discussed, or we could maybe do popcorn. Probably gonna be easier to go around and then do popcorn at the end. Okay, you guys wanna go first since we were theme 1? I'll tell you a little bit about what our background is and then I'll pass it over to y'all. So we had key learning outcomes. We were talking about what skills, knowledge, or understanding we want the students to gain from the course, what topics we're prioritizing in our courses, and what are some of the learning outcomes that we want, and how does that reflect who our students are. So a little bit with our group, we had 2 people teaching at universities, and we had 2 people who teach more community-based courses. So we had both kind of sides of things. Anybody want to speak up and share what you all said? Or are you going to make me do it?
You might need to get on the mic.
Yeah, you want to come up here. We have, well, I don't know if this one of these is on. Oh, it's on. Yeah. Okay, you guys can hear me in the back? Okay, we're gonna pass the mic around. That'll work.
So I was coming at this from a different perspective as well. So I don't teach, but I want to kind of implement WaSH learning courses. I work for a humanitarian relief organization, so most of our work is done internationally and globally. And I guess I was kind of looking at this as how can we kind of equip our beneficiaries with the right skills to be able to sustain the work that we do. So at some point, like we're not, even if we're not there, they're still able to test for water quality or like manage waste or like no basic hygiene. So yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Y'all's group, Drew, okay, so they have theme 2, which was course design. So y'all were talking about what do you decide when you're developing your course for prerequisites? Are you designing it more to be designing WaSH? Or is it more overall WaSH topics? And then what are some strategies you're doing to be able to recruit students?
All right, so we had a very diverse group of educators from different backgrounds, people who are working at universities, other working with community-based organizations, or even at the WHO level. There's a couple themes that arise around course design, and most of it was focused on knowing your audience and understanding what is their culture and context. And if the course, the material that you have to design has to be specifically tailored for the background of the individuals that you're teaching. So we mentioned culture, context. There was an emphasis on like problem-based learning, especially at like the university level, that to get students to engage with material, that having to do a hands-on project with, to think about problems and think about solutions through problem-based learning. And then the 2 other things we talked about that kind of covers everything. So yeah, I think that was primarily everything we talked about. We could fit into that theme of knowing your audience, understanding where they're coming from, their culture and their context, and then specifically designing the course to meet them where they are.
Awesome. Sounds like y'all had a really great group. But I don't know, our group was pretty awesome too. Y'all were very loud, so I'm excited to see when we get to y'all.
Oh boy.
Okay, so y'all had theme 3. So for those of us in the other groups, they were talking about course content. How are they structuring their content? Where are they going to find the content? What are some challenges they're having with the content and successes? Hopefully y'all had some successes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, take it away.
So our oh good, I am loud. So in terms of how we structure things, I actually am going to say that we coalesced around a lot of us would have students depending on whether it be group or individual, graduate versus undergraduate, would kind of pick a central topic and then do anything from a literature reviewed or perspectives paper to some kind of really get in-depth knowledge. Some of us are good enough at this that their students actually then publish the paper. This all led into a big discussion we had about how you responsibly evaluate students in an area of AI, right? So how are you going to have students write term papers when ChatGPT can do that for you? We talked about balancing with a great idea for QMRA and chemical risk assessment as a way to bring in some numbers for those who really want numbers, but how you go through and actually responsibly then give them feedback in an era where they might cut corners. Although we had a very important student perspective, which was that some students will always cut corners and some students will always be amazing, which I think is important, and we all agree. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, now we can do some more like popcorn, kind of in between. Like you guys only were able to talk with your group, but does anyone have anything to share about one of the questions or the topics of one of the other groups they weren't able to participate with?
I would actually love to know if there are prerequisites. So you said, you have to make sure it's tailored to the students you have. I have a 4,000 level, or that's senior undergraduate level crossing to grad. And my course originally had prereqs, but because of university politics, it can have no prereqs. And that's not really the best. But I also don't want to make it so narrow that only like 3 students can qualify to take it. So I don't know if anyone here has.
In my case, the prerequisite for the environmental engineering course in which I embed WaSH are basics in water. Like we have a course, water hydraulics, and basic chemistry and microbiology. So the students, when they come to this 4-year level course, they already had finished basic chemistry and basic biology and water hydraulics. And that's more than enough, I think, for WaSH topics. And most of the content that I personally teach is kind of descriptive more than engineering or mathematics, so they do well with the WaSH segment, with the basic chemistry and biology that they take in their first year in university. Hydraulics, they take it in 3rd year. So they come to my course in their 4th year or 5th year sometimes. So the prerequisites are quite okay. I don't know what else they need.
Yeah, I was curious too on that in some ways, and I wondered, like I often try to get public health students who won't necessarily have the same background as the engineering students, but if you team them together, it's really wonderful because then they each bring some strength to the effort, and I can always do a primer of some kind that is sufficient for the non-engineer, if you will.
This is very interesting because at the time when I was going to school at Tech, at Virginia Tech, the environmental engineering course used to be named public health engineering. Public health. And I think even in the name of it, that was a great mix to have engineering students working public health and public health students thinking some engineering. We need that mix, but unfortunately, since many years back, they separate. And we have become more disciplinary rather than, multidisciplinary in giving this, because WaSH by itself is a very multidisciplinary kind of topic that includes some engineering, but more of public health.
Does anyone from the other groups have anything to share?
Curious on the recruitment side. Go ahead.
For our case at the University of the Philippines, we teach WaSH as part of the course, specifically on environmental health. So the course on environmental health has a lot of prerequisites, actually. It has a prerequisite on chemistry, on epidemiology, um, microbiology and parasitology, so that they also have like an understanding of the different factors that would have an effect on WaSH. So the students are really required to take the course, so they have no choice. All of their prerequisites are also part of their prescribed program. So as part of the environmental course, they have to, at the end of the course, they actually have to do an analysis of an environmental health problem. So usually they identify different environmental health problems in the context of the Philippines, but mostly it's about WaSH. And then we also require them to find solutions to the problem that they identified using evidence-based interventions. So we try to ask them to base their proposals on published work on how these problems can be addressed. So yeah, it's really an intensive course. It has a lot of prerequisites for our undergraduate program.
Yeah, I think the other point that came up was like outside the university context, if you're doing education in the communities, right, there are no prerequisites. So it's, but similarly trying to understand your audience and the context which you're trying to teach. And then the point of like, is your course required or not? Right, it's like easier to have prereqs if it's a required course. If it's not a required course, then you may have less, like there's less students who inherently have to take it. And do you need to lower the prereqs to encourage students to make it more accessible to folks? So there's just trade-offs of whether or not it's actually built into the curriculum or not.
Yeah, and I'd be interested in knowing those of y'all who are not working in university settings for teaching, when you're teaching more in the community, do y'all have different levels of classes? So you have like a intro level and then you'll have more advanced, so you kind of do have prereqs, but they're structured differently than at a university?
Honestly, it depends upon the culture and the context. Because depending upon your culture and context, just getting in there at one level may be all that you can actually do, because it may not be accepting to continue it. But so you're trying to get the basic information to the community and not just give it to them, but that it becomes a part of how they live. So when you're talking about sanitation at the household level, what does that mean? So it's really very basic things like, what do you clean with? If you don't have that, what are your other alternatives? How does it impact you if you don't clean that way? So it's very, again, like I said, many times basic information, but that basic information is what can change and save lives. So that's the information that we're really trying to instill in the community.
What I think is really helpful here is something I know those of us with our heads in the university haven't thought about, because we fight to just get one WaSH, at least I do, to get one WaSH class taught. But what I'm hearing from all of us is there are tiers of, or different categories of need here. So as we think about the network, it seems to me that we've got these different categories, which is great. And then I'll just mention, to your point, the part of my class, I brought in a risk communication piece, and that's the part, and it's because I'm teaching mostly engineers. I have public health students, and they're more often than not, but I have to recruit them. But that's the piece that people really come back and say they really, really appreciate, because they get it nowhere else, certainly in the engineering curriculum, so that when and if they're ever in a community, they hopefully have picked up a nugget or two of the value of listening and accommodating, not, driving the process.
Absolutely. There's one example. Well, we do it in Bangladesh. We also do it in Zambia, but specifically on menstrual hygiene management. So we're working typically in some of those settings just with the women's groups. And then those women's groups, so it's almost like a train the trainer. So once they are trained, then they go around from to household or community center, et cetera. Sometimes it goes into the school setting. There are a couple projects that we have that go into the school settings, like in Malawi, where we have classes for the boys. That's the only time we're gonna be able to actually reach the boys to help them understand what's going on. So again, it is definitely context and culture, and the bottom line is you're trying to help transfer and instill the information that will help save lives and change lives. So, in those settings.
Yeah, we talked in our group up here about when you're thinking about topics, do you want to go deep in the topics or do you want to cover more topics? And I think that's come up in this conversation too, of the context. It depends on who your audience is and what you want to be teaching. That's what's fun about our topic, is it's very complicated because everybody has a unique situation, but we're hoping that we can work together to better support each other even though we have very different backgrounds. Nancy, can you?
I have a minute. I think I should share this little piece of experience with you. A long time ago, like 25 years back, I was in Ottawa, Canada, with IDRC, the International Development Research Center. And those folks up in Canada, they have done lots of projects in everywhere. And they come up with a new methodology to address WaSH and health education in general. They call it ecosystemic approach. Like whether it is engineers or public health practitioners or local communities, poor or rich, everybody, officials, governmental officials, NGOs, everybody should agree that if people live in a healthy ecosystem, then the human health will be fine. So, and they put together, after years and years of research and practice, that this approach should stem from 4 pillars. One of them is multidisciplinarity. The other one is participation, because sometimes, especially those of us who work with NGOs in poor areas, we think participation is with local community, but sometimes you need to get WaSH experts capable of including governmental officials also, not only the NGOs or the community. So I would suggest that including this piece of healthy ecosystem would by necessity generate healthy people. To have it like in 1 or 2 lectures would help students appreciate the multidisciplinary nature of this area, because all of us, whether we come from public health or engineering or science, we all interested in WaSH, but WaSH by its nature is a very multidisciplinary area. And until we can manage this multidisciplinarity in our content, and the best thing to educate students on, to get this end, is case studies. In my case, in my course, I rely more on real case studies where teams from different disciplines were capable of managing an environmental health issue that relates to water or sanitation or hygiene. Because we are still in the scientific community and in the practice community, we are still think that WaSH belongs to poor countries in the world, while we do have challenges in developed countries when it comes to WaSH, in schools, in hospitals, in households, etc.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
One last thing on I think, like topics and how to break up WaSH. I think there's a lot of opportunity to incorporate WaSH learning and lessons into other classes and topics. That's where my first WaSH class is. I'm the student. But yeah, it was a class on water treatment in general, but there was a couple weeks of learning about, the global sector, and then talking about, at the end we did a project that was focused on, low and middle income countries and like doing a design there. And so that's one way to incorporate WaSH into a class that isn't explicitly about WaSH in the like development sector. But I think there's also opportunities with, not even within colleges, of tacking on, WaSH education for educators out in the field, especially for, menstrual health and hygiene. There's a lot of ability to incorporate that into some other lesson plan. I know that one's kind of difficult because it is so gendered, but just as an example, and I think that's also a way of giving people different levels of the WaSH information, because obviously if you're learning about WaSH in a class where you're learning about water treatment, you're going to be focusing on the engineering design side of things, right? But then we also have another class that talks more generally about global development, and that might focus more on public policy and health. And then we have another class on water policy and politics at my college as well. So, but that also focuses on, they all focus on different aspects of WaSH, and none of them are explicitly WaSH in the global development setting per se, but it gets talked about in all of those classes. And I think that's because there is so much struggle with getting a WaSH designated class. That's where we have to get the education in, is through other avenues.
That's a good way to at least start. If you can't get the class, you can incorporate content. That's a good suggestion.
Well, I think we had a great breakout group 1. Talked about a lot of different things. We're now going to tie together and we're all going to talk about the same 3 questions. So our discussion is going to be a little bit more focused on what each group did, and it will be more overlap than what we had for the first one. But each group has another set of pieces of paper, and there are blue Post-it notes. So we're going to do the same thing where you spend a little bit of time writing down your reflections to these questions on the blue Post-it notes, and then put them up on the other sheet of paper that's up there. So now we're going to be focusing more on next steps. So what would help you better supporting your teaching going forward? And please make it focused on your specific area. Even though a lot of the conversation kind of at the end of our last one was focused on universities, we want to make sure that our group is broad and we're focusing on every single one of y'all's needs. And then is there anything that could help you in developing or improving your course so that we can maybe better connect you with some other folks that have good resources? And then just generally, what are you hoping to gain? So we want to keep it kind of open-ended. Whatever you guys think, we want this to be a network that serves y'all and what your needs are. And we will be in these groups for about 10 minutes or so. We'll cut it at about 2:40 to come back together.
specifically what would help you, support you going forward. I just said kind of what we're doing now, to hear from others about their experiences and resources to use, educating specifically in community settings. And then I just said, in reference to the last question, about what I hope to gain from the networking experience, and I just said learn specifically about what I said previously, resources using it, and educating in community settings related to like domestic and global work. So
I was thinking, what I put down here was maybe we need to separate, like, better connecting folks with similar careers and job roles, so that you can have somebody directly connecting to. I'm saying, like, with years of lead, Nancy has a lot of research on lead sampling and nutrition. If we could do a way of, like, topic connecting to, being able to integrate better what's happening at universities and communities to better connect each other.
And I feel like for those community modules, I've seen so much from WHO, CDC, other groups that have like specifically like already tailored materials that you can scan.
Right.
So if you haven't already encountered those, I feel like there's way to like be able to share those with folks. Like anything, like that's kind of mine is like I need more case studies. I have to come up with a lot. Like I like to do those as applied activities, and so it's hard with drawing on just my experience or what I can find online. A lot of people, I don't feel like there used to be a good website where people would share failures, like public health failures, and I think those are the most interesting to draw on. And just it hasn't been updated in like a decade, so like yeah, people have like case studies or examples. I think those are always more of interest to students. So sharing those type of materials and other things, like getting to know folks who could maybe guest lecture or point me to an expert on some topic that I'm not as well versed in, but is of interest to students.
Did you write all that down?
Kind of sloppy little notes, so I would remember it, but yeah.
Here,
No.
No, like seriously, because that's like, when I was up there, I literally, I was thinking myself for saying, one of them was like, if we could do guest lectures of like Drew, you met Drew? He teaches a whole color down at Indiana University, and like, he can do the epidemiology that I cannot.
Yeah, exactly.
Integrate him in to do that.
Yeah,
So,
that's nice.
yeah, that's why I'm like, write it out so that we can understand. Because the idea, the hope is that I can take everybody's notes and then consolidate them back down to. What about you? I think like topic-based content, because you talked about having a lot of different topics that you teach. Do you think it was helpful? Like some of the, it seems like a lot of folks back there are doing a lot more like that. And then that group is probably academic stuff. Like, I was wondering if like, if you're teaching a topic on, give me one of those topics you talked about earlier. Yeah, so maybe there's another group that has already created that content, and then maybe can like merge together what activities you have. Like when she was talking about it, so like you have boy classes and girl classes too. That would be really interesting. Do you think that would that be helpful? Like maybe having more like topic based, because even because what I was thinking at first of like people in similar career jobs, but like you could have a completely different job position than somebody else, but they might have the content you need in your group. That's very true. So it kind of split.
Getting that real world insight onto like how to think that actually occurs, I think would be really valuable for both of you. I mean, we have that, but we can like, I feel like sometimes get that from other colleagues, but like, yeah, like what's going to be particular about this local context? What's a sensitive topic? What's like a different way that we could frame this and talk about this? Or is there a good analogy that you found that helps connect the idea? Because I feel like a lot of the materials that even I'm talking about, they'll have things that try to connect it to it, but again, those need to be
Okay, guys, wrap up your conversations. We're gonna be coming back together. You wanna do our complete summary? I feel like,
But just to integrate, like,
I don't know, I hate going to sessions
about
where
this, now here's an example.
like the one who's like they
A
have
couple
it figured out what they want to do,
people are
just
actually
go to
trying
that.
to
So I'm trying really hard, like, it's not the three of us, we really want. But we also kind of have selfish intents, because I'm like, we want to improve our curriculum, we want to be better. So we're like, okay, let's facilitate this group. Yeah, and I really want to make sure that it's inclusive and not, and it's not just like our brain child, but like, what does people actually want to do? Okay, you guys done with your conversations?
I think they're ready. Why don't we go reverse order this time and we'll start?
Oh, but then we'll have no time. Okay, I'm giving you guys exactly 2 minutes, and then we'll come back to you.
So for question one, there was a really good point that Leanne was making about learning outcomes matched to assessments. So assuming it's a course at a university or a high school where you actually have to test, that we have learning outcomes with clear assessments and the challenges with AI and stuff in that context. Tips for getting WaSH class approved. So some universities it's difficult to get a class approved, but you can often offer it as a temporary number, like a special topics or something like that, for 1 or 2 times without having to worry about getting the upper level approval on that. Although Nancy said that what was your line? If it's half the world is relying.
More than half the world isn't getting the content in the classes we normally teach, so why do we not teach this class? Because it affects more than half the world. That was my argument.
Yeah, and you also had some points about, as an NGO, like teaching from ages 3 to 18 at 10 minutes at a time, which is a completely different order of magnitude of the problems that I have teaching across different grad students. But yeah, definitely a big challenge. For number 2, helping in the development, what topics to include and how in depth. So like maybe going to other syllabi or other people who've taught that and getting some advice. Example assessments or activities and projects. I put a list of short videos on YouTube, like 3 to 5 minutes. You can teach about something and then show a video to the students about someone actually carrying something out. I think it would be great. I'm sure there's 10,000 videos on WaSH on YouTube. If we could get a curated list, that'd be great. Good materials, universal course material if possible. So none of us had like a really good WaSH textbook or a set of materials that you can use for a course that we really thought. Now correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone has a good example of a WaSH textbook you can actually just follow, that'd be great. And then, for number 3, new ideas and strategies to organize content, access to ideas, resources, and lessons learned. So that's one reason that I came, is just to try to see what other people had done and if you've got any nice resources that I could use when I teach it in the spring. Network of experts and practitioners, resources available online, like a drive, like a Box or a Dropbox or Google Drive, that we could actually put a bunch of stuff in an organized fashion, people not be totally overwhelmed with a bunch of things not labeled well, but actual folders, example syllabi, lecture slides on different topics, named in a way that they're actually navigable, that sort of thing. Did I go over my 2 minutes, Jillian?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You talked fast.
We can go next?
Yeah, you guys can go next.
Okay. So we had a couple of themes that overlapped with people were talking about. The first was subject matter expertise, and that many of us are experts and we have very deep expertise in maybe one specific area, but the kind of the multidisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity of WaSH, that there's very few people that can speak to the wide subject expertise that are needed in WaSH courses, and getting access to those, which kind of tailors into our second point, which is just access to resources. That because we might have the expertise to put together content on a specific subject area, there are other individuals who can be more thoughtful and nuanced and have a better, deeper understanding of WaSH content from areas that we might not be experts in, and getting to this idea of how do we curate this in a way that is usable, user-friendly, organized, in such a way that gets access to that, not only for at the university level, but also kind of at the NGO and local level, and having easy to access content. There was a comment on universities and NGOs working closer together, that we are in, kind of one of the themes that developed kind of from many different voices in our group was that we're all doing education. We are teaching different folks from different cultures and contexts, but we have opportunities to work together because we are sharing this theme of education and trying to teach WaSH more broadly globally. There was a comment about dedicated follow-up and more feedback, that this might exist at universities through like course feedback forms. Can be more difficult if you don't have something that's like a semester long, and asking people for their time to give you feedback on a shorter course can be more difficult, but finding opportunities and ways to get feedback on what's working and what's not, and how do we improve maybe short form content for different organizations can be really helpful. And then there was one final comment, which is kind of just building off previous things we had said, it's just about knowing your audience, and that depending on who you're teaching and where you're coming from, that making sure that as we're building content, we know who we're teaching for and what their backgrounds are, so we can best meet their needs for the material. Okay, good.
Okay, you ready to share for us?
Yeah, I can speak for this group, kind of. Yeah, I mean, not much that's new relative to what other folks were saying. I would say that maybe some of the more community-facing folks were talking about like lessons learned or what was effective in terms of teaching in community settings. So thinking not just what course content am I trying to communicate, but how can I engage people and actually make sure they're learning it and able to apply the information. Having a network of experts is always useful, both for potential guest lectures, but also to like bounce an idea off or see if what I'm presenting on is actually the latest evidence and what makes sense for students. Oh, and selfishly, I'm always looking for additional case studies. So I work where I work, but I think I'm always happy to draw on other people's experiences because I think that's what engages students the most, or at least that's when they perk up in my classrooms, is when I'm talking about local real experiences. So having some like folder that does that. Otherwise, yeah, I think that that kind of captures without being duplicative of others, but if anybody wants to say anything.
Yeah, we talked about how there's different groups of people in the room. So maybe looking at structuring the network where you share what your career, your job's role is, so that we can maybe better match people of, like, if you're both teaching this age range, then y'all would be a good match together. But also maybe splitting it kind of by topic based. So for example, can I call out you? Okay, so she's working a lot with lead education, and I was talking about how Nancy does a lot of research with lead. So maybe it would be a good way to connect the researcher with the organization that's doing the lead-based teaching, so we can maybe do some interconnection between universities and organizations, but also better support, like, the needs of an organization teaching are gonna be a little bit different than a university teaching, so making sure that's clear in how we structure it. And then I got some other ideas from you guys, so that really helps. These were our general ideas of what we were thinking about, and what we're planning to do is take what y'all talked about and merging them so that we can expand and make sure that our ideas are very tailored to what the needs are. So we're thinking about maybe doing meetings about 3 times a year. We don't want to make a huge time burden. I feel like we all have a bunch of meetings all the time. And we're thinking they would be more topic-based, based off of things that came up in the conversation today. That's why we had you guys use the Post-it notes. So we'll have the different topics of what the needs are and then tailor our discussions based on those. And we will have some where there'll be like a guest person asked to come and speak, and then some of them will be more casual, like a coffee and chat, where we just discuss issues that we're having, kind of more like what we have here today. And then we're interested in the online platform, which we talked about earlier, and it sounds like there's some interest there. We're gonna have a lot of conversations as a group. We kind of discussed it a little bit. There's a need to make sure it is organized and it is useful, and that we don't end up spending a whole bunch of time trying to figure out where the files are, but also making sure that the files that you need are clear to you and you don't have to dig through all of the other people's files. So it'd be very helpful to have everybody's voices at that. We're thinking the first meeting maybe November, December sometime. I'll send out an email with coordinating that. So this is my email address. If you guys have any questions or anything that you need before we have that meeting, feel free to reach out. And this is the survey again. So if you want to fill it out again, if you didn't get a chance to do that. And then based on the interest, we might do a mentorship program. And it sounds like there's some other really good ideas of like maybe having example evaluation forms, having maybe like a list of subject matter experts that we could talk to for having guest lectures or talk to for better making sure the curriculum is good. Yeah, so thank you guys for putting your post notes up. Anybody have anything else that they want to share?
I'm willing to trade guest lectures.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, I think Leon and I both taught like almost 10 years now on this. Are there other, like we're in different, like people have taught for different, and I've done it 6 different ways. I've finally landed after 6 times. And the only thing I'm thinking of the resources, to Julian's point about getting like organizing whatever the platform is that we ultimately agree on. I think the November, December meeting, we might come back with some of those ideas. Is even my own notes are all over the place because I have iterated and iterated and iterated. And I've also was telling them that like the fecal sludge management book that IW published that came out of EVAG is a really great resource, and there are a ton of errors in it. And now I know what those errors are, and I don't want you all to have to go figure out what those errors are when you teach fecal sludge management if that's part of your class, right? So things like that are a bit of a nightmare, but hopefully can help, like, and then you have time to do something else that then helps, the rest of us who may have been doing it for a long time. So I think there's help that can happen in so many directions here. And I loved your train the trainer point. I just want to comment on that and then back to like lead. So I have a train the trainer lead thing that was built by the community. So that could be helpful to what you're doing. But even having students or people learn how do you develop an effective train the trainer program is good for a class.
Speaking of guest lectures, before COVID-19 pandemic, because now things are easier. You can exchange and invite guest lecturers from anywhere in the world. But before COVID-19 and before we came to know Zoom and Teams and all these technologies, I once invited a guest lecturer from Germany to Jordan, and I myself was invited by Hohai University in Nanjing, China, to give a series of lectures on WaSH. But nowadays, with the online thing that we have become all expert in, I think it's easier once you have the network operational. You can always have.
And we can orchestrate it. So I had one where I did like a 2 chairs in a
Sure,
chat,
sure,
and
yeah,
and then I recorded it.
sure,
And now I use that every year, and they don't have to come back.
exactly,
And then others can use it.
exactly. But my main point is that because as the gentleman in the morning was speaking, that the UN failed the institutions like USAID and World Bank when it comes to WaSH development in poor countries. Everybody is talking about a failure after decades of support and financing, etc. And I think one of the issues that we have to pay attention to is on our backs, like the WaSH experts. We have been thinking in WaSH question as it is rich versus poor, like it is certain parts of the world. But again, you know that we have WaSH-related dilemmas in New York right now, and in major European cities. It's not only the Middle East or India or Africa. So here comes the importance of having guest lecturers, like for people from the United States, I mean experts, to appreciate and understand the platform for WaSH in other parts of the world, and for people like myself who come from the Middle East or Africa or India also to, because it's a universal issue. It's not, and everybody has the statistics that the UN published. We are still talking about a humanity where 1/4 of us as human beings, they lack access to drinking potable water. Like 1/3 of humanity lacks proper sanitation. So what we need is not fancy sanitation services, but proper sanitation. So it can differ, the term proper, between Africa and Europe, between India and the United States, but at least we have the minimum, because if we are truthful, our goal is to save lives and to prevent disease. Our goal is not to have everybody in the world live in a luxurious place. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sitting here and I feel like I'm writing everything you say word for word because it's great. So we have about 5 minutes left. I think we should end the large group so that you all have an opportunity to go and meet some of the people in the other groups if you would like to, or have some more conversations that are not structured in a big group thing. Thank you all for coming. You will get an email from me at some point if you filled out the Google form. And if you have anything you want to talk to us about, we'll be up here as well for a little while. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for doing our.
It's a pretty generic name, but we're all just yeah, for sure. I taught when I was at UNC yeah.
Trying to expand on the education materials that you're going to have there.
I'm from UNC.
Which department are you at Buffalo?
Epidemiology.
Oh, all right. Oh, cool. All right, we're in the epic department.
I graduated from the
No, that's a good sign. It's a good sign.
no way. Okay, that's
Systems that are replaced by LP and others were never.
yeah, that is.
I don't have to talk to the kind of engineer who read a paper once somewhere. Yeah, so now we have a predictive model to predict without anyone. Right. So that's, starting point, and now we want to. Yeah, somewhere it sounds like, but it's.
I know you have the QR code, but
It's so much, right? And we worked with deliver, but they're so vulnerable and so.
I grabbed how many
so
business cards I needed, and then I finished the first conference on
structures.
oh, it is on.
Yeah, it's in the bottom corner, yeah. I put it up there last night because I was like, oh geez, I totally dropped the ball. I have a whole box.
But I have like a ton of data.
Yeah, I might give it to my professor.
And I feel like our program was kind of, I know that that's for a lot of things that are
Yeah, the one thing that happened was when they went back to schools, they bought inexpensive valves. So when we measured, we had really have everything. Super
At least one.
And I'm glad you were willing to participate and talk, which is really good.
But routinely across the board, offer every sample.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
For not
it's not, it's not a big deal at all.
Enjoy the conference.
Because it's the first, we're doing a worst case first flush, and they're not getting it. Yeah. So we did do some serial, and you do see that once we did that, we're We were doing July, because they only have like 4 weeks off, it's a long year, yeah. So right in that time, and then one year we did it in October, we still started in October. Yeah, but it was in the morning, we would go in the morning, yeah.
Just the overnight.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I did
If you message me, I can send you some of the stuff they're doing in Chicago. Sarah's filling out a report, but yeah, like, I don't know, they have like one way of like trying to disseminate it.
There are still some folks, and it's been a lot of convincing, or what they like to call built that type. But, they actually just did a whole restructure there. So we've actually like, my position has been really like moved area. But, so it's really not all that different, but, so I was at the, statistical and environmental sciences and maybe for that area, or like a lab. That's really hard to do it. Sitting there, looking at labs, we kind of in the lab and little like small environmental health and engineering thing under that. So it's a little strange, but I think they just are like, looking at this,
So, yeah,
condense
I'm happy that there's a topic there.
because we weren't the
I think I'd like to link this.
strange, but
I do. Send me a touch, and I will send what I got.
Okay, yeah, but if you
thank you.
We're gonna do that. Definitely, I have, I don't have a, yeah, anyway, I do have an ISO, but I've been trying, but it's just changed. And it's evolved, like I said, but I'm pretty happy.
Julia, I met her through,
I'm hoping to stay and see it grow back. Yeah.
she's teaching at a university in Germany and said she was interested in.
Yeah, that worked hard.
Yeah, I was going.
Maybe she was doing the road.
I made a note that on our first.
Yeah. It's very nice.
And are you here for a holiday?
Yeah. Because it was me coming in and talked about this. I think I don't know
See you around.
what it was, but we had gotten, we had shot the email just with some of our resources.
That's
All
my
right,
name.
thanks a lot, yeah, I got mine
All
too.
the way to Alabama.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I went to Pittsburgh, and then you went to Chapel Hill. It's a great place to live. Great place to live. Oh, yeah, yeah. It's really, it's a great place to raise a family. We've got 5 kids. So that's a whole, I did civil engineering at State. Yep, and I did environmental engineering at Gene Tech for a number of years. And I worked in, John Novak. Oh, yeah, all right. No, I haven't.
Right.
Yes, yes.
I think so, yeah. Okay, have you checked? Are they on there? Okay. I thought it was in mine. Okay. So we'll let them do it. Someone's coming back, is that correct?
Yeah. Either way, I'm gonna go ahead and upload mine.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's just.
See. I also brought mine on a flash drive, but I don't know.
She'll be back.
Okay.
I don't know what application they're using, but I was just gonna go.
Yeah, I think it's final semester.
Download.
I'm not sure.
Oh, wait, no, that's OneDrive.
Yeah.
Oh, this one. Yeah, I should go in there.
Probably.
Great, this is why.
Oh, there's mine.
Oh,
Right.
perfect.